Here we are again on the CDC6. We're going to take a look at how to actually route a mic or an instrument through a channel. We're zoomed in here on the main user interface. So there is a setup that you can do through the settings screen over here on the right. If I go to config and then select channel, this does allow me here to assign a particular channel to be either a mono channel, a linked channel, a stereo channel, which is shown on these few here, or also to assign it as a talkback channel. It does give me a chance here to select something and then hit rename. I love the big giant keyboard that pops up. I don't have to have a physical keyboard plugged in. I can get around pretty fast on this. There are left and right arrows here, so I can jump immediately to the next channel in line. One thing that's odd, and it's just a user interface preference that someone decided, but as I type, the key that I hit highlights white and then it fades back to its regular color over a while. If I'm typing something in pretty fast, it gets kind of hard to see as I've got several white buttons still left on the interface. So if I type test, it's just, you can see how everything kind of, it's just an odd thing that it's not a big deal, but it does make typing on the screen just a little more, I don't know, tedious maybe than what it should be. So this is going to be the test mic, and I do have left and right cursor arrows, which is kind of nice. So if I want to capitalize the T, I can go back over here, Shift T. I don't have to hold Shift down. There is no, that I've been able to find, there is no copy and paste function though. So if I've got BGV 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I have to type that full thing out every time. There is a control space button. I don't know what that means. I don't know what control space is. I've tried playing with it and it just puts a space in, so I'm not sure what that's about. So anyway, that's how I can name channels. That's where I name the channels. And again, once I've selected something, I can make it mono, a linked channel. Something to note though, I can only link from an odd to the next even fader. I cannot link an even to an odd. So as you're laying out all of your inputs on the console, and let's say you wind up with 5 mics on your drums, and you have your piano plugged into channels 6 and 7, you cannot link those nor make them a stereo pair. You'd have to burn channel 6 so that you can use 7 and 8 as a linked or a stereo pair. So there it is. So you can make things a stereo channel. And again, I like the big graphic interface. I want to operate this thing really fast, kind of at a moment's notice, and so the bigger the better on these kind of interface elements. I really like that. This section of the board down here, keys, sample, add item, new folder, and edit mode. The rep that brought this out to us had no idea what that did. I've kind of poked around with it a little bit and also have not figured out what it does, so we just kind of ignore that that's there. I do have a move channels button over here on the far right. I do like this, so regardless of the physical inputs that I'm plugged into, I can hit move channels, and then it shows me all of my faders down here at the bottom, and I select a channel and I can assign that to any one of the physical faders on the console. I do like that. So the example from before where I've got 5 drum mics and then a dead channel just so that I can stereo pair my piano mics coming in next, I don't have to have a dead fader on my surface. I can use this to rearrange stuff and cover that up. I just have to remember that I've got an extra input available that I've kind of hidden. So I'm going to hit back and I'm back to here. So exit. So that's the channel config menu in the main settings over here. But once I get to plugging something in, I'll kind of walk through the interface here. So at the top, by default, at the top, this top block across the screen here is my input section, my preamp section. So if I touch that, it pops this window up over here on the right. So one thing you'll notice is we've got this big glare up here. This is a very glossy screen, so lots of fingerprints on it, lots of glare. It just is what it is. You have to know that if you've got a light directly above your front of house position, you will likely have to take that bulb out so that you can operate the screen without a glare there. So this is my preamp section. It always pops up to the far right side edge of the screen. That is because I now can use some of these rotary controls for some of the interface elements. So I immediately get mono, linked, and stereo settings again here. I get my phantom power, my polarity reverse, and I can select that as a line input instead of a mic input. This knob now gets mapped to my mic gain. So I do see a numeric readout. I do see a bar graph that shows me how high I've turned that mic. I get a digital input trim underneath that. So that's more relevant, not here on analog input so much, but when I assign Dante or an AS input or something here, this does give me a level control on that digital input. We also do get, in this case, a send trim. So you can see a assign send, assign returned. This gives me an opportunity to take a physical input and output from the console for some rack equipment if I need to. I've got my favorite LA2A compressor and I want to send my lead vocal out of the board to that rack unit and then back in. That's how I could do that. Also in here though is my assign input. So when I press that, it will show me all the connected stage boxes. So all of my available inputs and outputs. They all show up here. So local I/O, the console has a total of 8 analog in and outs, and I believe 8 AS in and outs. So I can select from those, or we currently have connected to this console a 32 by 16 analog input box. So if I hit 32 by 16, I see all 32 of my analog mic jacks. In this case, we're going to use mic input number 7. So they light green if some other channel is already using it. They light purple if it's the one that I have selected for this channel. And you can see down here they're gray if that one is not assigned to any channel. I can hit clear for inputs, and that would clear all of the inputs out. So if I just need to kind of wipe that routing, clear for outputs. I also have a one-to-one assignment. So if I say, well, I just want input 1 to go to channel 1, 2 to 2, so on and so forth, I could hit one-to-one assignment, or I'd come up here to my first input, select that, and then hit one-to-one assignment. So everything after the one that I started at will get one-to-one outputs or inputs assigned. I also have a Dante converter plugged into this console, so that does show up here in the rack as well. So I get one thing that's really cool. I really like this about the Dante interface here is this is a 64 channel Dante box, not just 32. Now I have to have 2 network connections into it, so I get 32 I/O per bank basically of the Dante box, but point is I do get 64 Dante I/O channels. So we've got a virtual sound check thing that we're going to do, so I'll actually use the Dante here in a little bit, but not quite yet. Local effects, we do have 16 individual reverb processors in the console. I do like that, and I can do mono in, stereo out on the processors. There's a way you set that up as well, so I do like that. Also built into the console is a Waves interface, so I don't have to spend money or burn a card slot adding a Waves server to this. There are dedicated Waves jacks on the back of the console, and so that's a really nice feature there. Aux is not aux like we would think of, like an aux bus. This is rather just noise generators. This is my signal generators. So 100 hertz, 1K, and a noise generator, which is pink noise. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm going to my analog stage box. I'm going to take mic input number 17 off my stage box and feed that to this channel. So once I've selected that, I hit exit, and then I still have this. It leaves my mic pre's up. So I've got a wireless mic here. I'm going to turn this guy on. And if I talk into this, you'll see that we do get a meter down here at the bottom of the channel. We do not get a meter up here in the preamp section. That would be nice, I think, to have that meter show up in here as well, but we don't see that. We do see it down here. And the camera's not panned in such a way that you can, but you would see the fader meter show up there as well. So if I bring the fader up, you'll see we get sound. I do have phantom power, all those standard settings in here for all of that. Most all of these pop-up windows have a big exit button that allows you to dump out of that setting, okay? So I do have my level meter here. I need to assign this channel now to an output. So opposite end of the screen down here at the bottom is my output assignment. So when I select that, I get LCR, LR, left, right, and center. So I can select kind of any combination of these. The odd part to me is if I select left and right buses, I get no pan. I can't pan in between. It's just, I assume, feeding unity out to two different buses at the same time. If I hit the left-right bus, I now have a pan. Not really sure what the distinction is or is intended to be between those two. So left, right is how I've set this up. Interestingly, if I select left, center, right, I can use my knob down here to pan left and right. And then if I figured this out, if I click that and then pan or turn the knob, I get my center to left, right ratio. It's illustrated a little odd, but one thing that's kind of interesting is when I stop turning this, 2, 3, 4, and wait a few seconds, it no longer does this center to sides ratio. It goes back to the standard left-right pan. So there's no indication on the display that that's happening. You don't know how long it stays in the center ratio mode. And it's 4 or 5 seconds or so. Throughout the interface, a feature that I really like is if you press and hold one of the knobs, it will turn that value to its default value. So if you're playing with the pan, press and hold, and it will snap right back to the center. I do like that. So I don't have to kind of dial this in and hit 0 on the numbers. I can just press and hold and it jumps straight to the center. That's kind of a nice feature. So there's my input section, my output section, and an interesting thing is there is a swap button down here in the bottom left of the display section. Down here at the bottom left, if I hit swap, it takes these two blocks and trades places. So now all my preamps are down here, my output assignment is up here. What I like about that is that now my rotary encoders are always my mic pre's. So this seems to make a little more sense to me that I have that always available. This I'm going to change once at my initial setup, but I'm going to have to probably come back and tweak my mic pre's occasionally. So leaving this in its swap mode seems to make a little more sense to me. One thing that really kind of bothers me is, given how high this display, how tall this display is, and how far away it is from the fader down here that I'm touching and interacting with, the channel name shows up obviously on the little scribble strip right here, but it also shows up right here at the bottom of the channel strip. Now, if I want to adjust the EQ for this mic, the EQ is all the way up here at the top of the screen. So I've found myself several times, this is the one I want to adjust, so I have to kind of drag my finger up and touch the EQ. So I would love to have the channel name both here at the bottom and have it duplicated again at the top, just because EQ, compressor, and all these things are so far away from my faders down here that it seems to be kind of a workflow thing. It disrupts me. I've got to follow that all the way up to get to those elements. So putting the channel name at the top of the strip also would be a really nice time saver. So that's how we route a signal into a channel and then assign the outputs of a channel to our main bus.